All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today, we have another special guest. We've got Sean. Now, Sean's the head of video for Sentinels. He's been creating a lot of content, probably about 75% of his content, that he consumes and watches in Halo scene. That's where I know him from. But working with Sentinels, they've been skyrocketing in Valorant. So a lot of the editing that he's been doing has been around Valorant. He's from Toronto, living in LA at the moment. He's had previous experience working with the LA Gladiators, with Blitz Esports, and with the Score. So it's going to be awesome to kind of get into his brain a little bit and have a look at, how did he get to that position? When you're editing such high quality content for, someone like the Sentinels, how do you come up with ideas and how do you make it stand out? And, how do you get it to a level where everybody that's involved is happy with it? And then also for like any of the young kids watching this that want to know how you get into esports and what it kind of takes, we're going to get into Sean's story and dive nice and deep into it as well. The first question that I've got, Sean, is in your Twitter bio and everything, is it Dyna at the start?
DynaSean, yeah.
It's DynaSean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did that come from? Because I've always looked at it and I've been like, am I pronouncing this wrong in my head?
Yeah, that came from when I was in high school. Yeah, how old was I? I don't know, 15 or something like that. A buddy of mine, we used to make like funny YouTube videos, 15-year-old kids having fun with the video camera. That was at the time when YouTube just started to. Anyway, but we called ourselves Dynamite Productions, and to shorten it, it was Dynaprod. So I made the tag DynaSean, and it just kind of stuck. I don't know. I just ended up using it. That was the gamer tag that I just ended up putting so many hours into, and then I was like, I'm not going to change it. I'm already there. So
yeah. So now it's like a little bit of an element of your personal brand.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a story to it.
Yeah,
there's a memory to it.
Yeah, it's good because it has that it's like a bit of heritage, a bit of history behind it. Yeah,
and I like that it has my name in it. I don't know. I like it when your name is in your tag.
Yeah. I wish I could do that, but Liam just is like Liam is such a boring name, right?
No,
I don't know.
Strong name. Liam's a strong name.
You think so? I appreciate that. I'll have to come up with another version, but I'm having this identity crisis at the moment because I got locked out of my Twitch account on Hydrisney, which is like my gamer tag. And I created another one, which is a word that I write when I do street art, which is blush. And so I've been having this weird thing where I'm showing up in people's streams and I'm on this BlushOne account. No one knows who I am. And then I'm on this Hydrisney account. People are like, Liam, are you having this identity crisis?
Yeah. can't figure out which one you want.
Yeah. And I like both of them, but maybe I need to kind of take it up and put Liam in there like yours and make it work.
So I'll think of some ideas and let you know.
Yeah. So have you always been a gamer? Because obviously now you're pretty much living, working, everything you do is in esports. Did you grow up playing computer games and having that love for it, or how did it initially start for you?
Yeah, of course. I don't think I was as much of a gamer as kids are now. I think I spent more of my time outside playing Manhunt and Tag and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Always a gamer. Always, Halo. Just kind of the same story as most people. Just kind of discovered Halo when I was 11, and then got obsessed with it. I think I got mostly obsessed with Halo 3. That was when my gaming days kind of consumed me. But yeah, I guess so. Just pretty similar to most, I guess. Just kind of mostly a gamer, but growing up, I definitely socialized and did all that.
Yeah. So when you got into computer games, was Halo a first game for you? Was that one of the first things you played, or did you start as a Nintendo kid and then kind of?
Yeah, I think my first system was the Genesis, and I played Sonic. I guess most people are Mario. I was on the Sonic side, and then I got the N64, GoldenEye. That took over, and that was for. I had an older brother, so. I'd always play with him and he would always beat me and I'd hate it. And then what was after that? Got really into Diddy Kong Racing, those games, and then I tried Halo at a friend's house.
Yeah.
And I think at that time, because that was kind of sort of pre-internet, and not pre-internet, but early days of the internet and stuff like that, where you didn't now you get news delivered to you right in front of you all the time. So I don't remember hearing about Halo when I was a kid, that it was coming out or what it was, stuff like that. I was just one of those games that I was over at a friend's house and he had it.
Yeah.
And then just got addicted to it. And then we used to, it was my friend who lived on the same street, and we would go to school at like 8 in the morning or something like that.
Yeah.
But I would go over to his house at like 5:30 in the morning on weekdays. Like I would get up early, and we would just play the co-op campaign like super late in the morning every day. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude, I love that story. I've got this running theme now, and I actually think I'm going to get like t-shirts made up about it. Is like everyone has their Halo dealer, right? That someone, you know, like you said, it's the friend at school that you go over, you don't even own an Xbox, and you sit down, you play Halo for the first time. And it's that game, right, that when you sit down, it's probably the first experience for so many people where you're like in this alien world. And, you know, you've actually got the tools to kind of navigate it and explore. And, you know, especially for like the original Halo games, the soundtrack for its time, you know, plus the graphics, it was just that thing that really just sucked you into it and went, wow, I want to be more and more part of this world, right?
Yeah.
So
I think at that time, like split screen was also like in its prime, right? Every game had split screen. So like, I think if Halo didn't have split screen back then, it wouldn't have done its thing.
Yeah, because it is that playing with friends and the nostalgia, I think, that lots of people talk about. So when you were talking that, was that Halo 3 that was the first one you played, or was that CE?
No. Like I played CE like when I was like young, where I would go over every day, and then like I played them all. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like Halo 3 and maybe Halo 2 were like the ones I like poured hours into. Yeah. Halo 2 is when I got my own Xbox, and took me a little while to get Xbox Live, and then once I got that going, it was game over for me.
Yeah, dude, for sure. The first time that I realized that I was playing other people online, my competitive side kicked in, and I literally just melted my life into Halo 3. And they had the MLG, Team Slayer, and Team Doubles playlist. Oh, and Snipers. Man, like that was just my life. Were you mainly a competitive person for Halo 3, or did you like just jumping on playing social?
I think at the start I was very social, but I think the competitive side came into me from like we would always play split screen with like multiplayer split screen with like 4 players, or sometimes we'd have a system link with all the kids on the street. You know, we'd all hit up one kid's basement and play. But then then Xbox Live came out for like Halo 2, and I remember always playing Xbox Live to get better, so I could on Friday I can beat my friends. You know what I mean? Like that was like Xbox Live was like the practice to go, and then on the weekend we'd have our sleepover, and then that's when you wanted to try and beat your friends. Yeah,
man, what a life, hey? Imagine me only go back to that just for like a little bit, you know? Like
that'd be sick.
Yeah, I've got this picture that comes up every year around my brother's birthday of the like last LAN. It's like the last memory that I've got of all of us being in like the house I grew up in. It was probably like, well, I think 6 TVs in like downstairs. You know, there was like 12 of us down there playing, and it's just one of those memories, right? That like I hope I never lose it, because it's just that special moment where everyone's yelling at each other. You know, we're playing like Guardian, and just so some great memories with that.
Yeah.
So when you were like at school and you were kind of obviously. That would have been around the same time that you were playing these Halo games. Were you at that point already starting to think, I want to be in the esports kind of industry, or what did you want to be when you were in high school?
I think when I was in I didn't really know much about esports in high school. I think I knew it existed in like Halo, but I didn't get too deep into it. But yeah, in high school I actually wanted to like go into law, like be a police officer or a lawyer or something like that. But during high school is when, as I mentioned earlier, me and my buddy started making like funny YouTube videos type stuff. And we were getting really good at it. And we started to like pick up traction. Again, this is when YouTube just started, before Google bought them. And my dad ended up kind of telling me, he's like, hey, like, are you sure you want to be like a cop? You know, he's like, you seem to be good at these videos and you like it, you know, so why don't you look into doing that? So I was like, yeah, shit, you're right. Yeah. I should look into doing that. And then, so that was like maybe grade 11 when I pivoted, like what I was studying, you know, like I ended up switching over from like out of law and going into like more, I think it was called communications technology, where, you know, doing videos and stuff like that. Yeah, and it just kind of happened like that. I didn't hear about Halo Esports until, well, I heard about it, but I didn't really get into it until like Halo 4, maybe. Halo 3 a little bit. Like I remember watching it with my buddy who I made the videos with, we'd always talk about Halo 3. But then like I started really watching it and really diving into it around Halo 4 and Halo 5.
Yeah. So the videos you were creating with your mate, were they like filming, like you had a camera, you guys were filming to do stuff? Like what were what were those videos about?
Yeah, those were just like, you know, stupid little skits that we would think about. I wish they were still online now, because they would have been like, you know, you go on YouTube and it shows you like the date it was uploaded. It would have said like 20 years ago, and you know how many views they all have now. But like we did like, you know, parodies of popular songs and just like skits that we'd think of that we would act together, you know, things like that. Yeah, just like stuff that kind of like stuff that you see today that, you know, a lot of kids do. Just we used to do like pranks, you know, like the stupid pranks that kids do, and just stuff like that.
And so when you were doing that, were you practicing and like improving your editing along the way, or was it just the super simple? You kind of filming it, you chucked it into iMovie, whacked it all together, and then upload?
Yeah. So at the start, it was definitely just like for fun.
Yeah.
Like we saved up. We both worked at Arby's at that time, so that's where we got our money to buy everything. And I remember we saved up our money to like buy the camera. We saved up our money to buy like editing software. And at that point, like, yeah, I guess I mean, I was learning obviously, but I never had the intention to like, I'm learning this to like become a pro video guy in 10 years, you know. We were just doing it for fun, you know, and I was just doing, and I was like in my head, like, nope, I'm studying to be a lawyer, like, you know. But once that shift did happen, and I was like, I want to do this for a career. I think I do remember trying to take things more seriously, and that was more towards like grade 12, like the end of it, the end of high school. Or what do Americans call that? They don't go by grades, like senior. I guess I was a senior. At that point is when I started. I do remember like starting to take it seriously, which honestly might have dampened the fun a little bit. Like, you know, when you start like thinking of it as a job, and I'm nitpicking things and writing scripts. Like we never wrote scripts. We just made funny videos. But yeah, so I'd say like, you know, no, at the beginning it was definitely just for fun, and then maybe like towards the end of it, I started to just think about it a little bit more.
Yeah. And so when you were thinking about it a little bit more, like, and you're at that kind of grade 12 point, what was some of the stuff that you were doing? Were you like researching what's better equipment that I can get? Were you researching like, how can I make these techniques happen? You know, or was it more in the video moment where you were kind of like, I want to make the video do this, and then you were kind of figuring it out along the way? Or how did you kind of keep progressing?
Yeah. I remember, so when we started and we were making those videos, only my friend had like a good enough computer to like edit. So I would have to go over to his place to like do anything. But then I saved up my money and I bought my first MacBook. Remember when the MacBooks first started came with Intel, those white MacBooks?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I bought one of those, and that was like a game changer. Like iMovie became a thing, and that like opened up my world. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so got the MacBook. That's when I started like, that's probably around the time when I started to like shift and take it more seriously. And then I discovered like Video Copilot. I don't know if you know them, but he did, especially at that time, a lot of tutorials on After Effects and like visual effects. That really sparked my interest. And like now I have this computer that can do it. You know what I mean? So like I wasn't so limited anymore. So anything I would see on the internet or YouTube, I would be able to learn and like look it up or actually do it, because my computer was capable. Really like camera techniques. I remember I bought one of those For Dummies books on like camera shots and like different shots and stuff like that. Got really into that. I remember renting out my high school's cameras just to like dick around my house with it. And then editing techniques, definitely got really into that. I got really into motion graphics, and I started to just YouTube tutorials. Like I went to college and did all that stuff. But most of the stuff that I think back to was I learned everything just through YouTube.
It's a changing world with that type of stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. It would just be a point where like, that's cool, I want to make that. And then I would just learn how to do it, or I would think about like something cool to make, like, and there was definitely trends at that time. I remember when I was doing it, it became really trendy to like muzzle flashes and like how to make guns look like you're just really shooting them, and you know, and like blood effects and things like that. So I remember like following so many tutorials on that and like learning how to do all that, and you know, compositing. And the more you do and the more you kind of like unlock, you start to like, it's like a chain effect. You end up learning more and more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And so when you started kind of developing those skills a little bit more, when did you kind of start being like editing, say, gameplay and like, you know, gaming related videos? When did that kind of come into the scene?
Yeah, that came into, we did do some gaming stuff back with like my buddy when we were young. Like we did Gears of War stuff. I remember that was a big thing. I think we tried doing like Halo montages. We looked into like, you know, capture cards and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But definitely I got more into it. God, I think I got really into the gaming capture around that, right before MCC launched. I created like a YouTube channel and I wanted to do that whole thing. I ended up calling that channel is called Paradise Gaming. And then, like, my idea was like, oh, it could be anything, any game I want, but I just did Halo. That's all I knew. And I did a lot of like community stuff. I did top 10s, you know, just like, you know, your run of the mill Halo channel. So that's where I started getting into game capture and like, you know, learning all that. And then definitely went full force into it when I got the job at the Score. That was when I started to really get introduced to the world of esports and, you know, what's possible and stuff like that. And then that's kind of when it all started.
Yeah. Because I think I've watched quite a lot of Paradise Gaming videos, and the quality of the stuff that you do is really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, I always say this, but the links will be in the description for all of this content that you put out, all the channels that you got. And if you guys watching haven't seen any of the Paradise Gaming videos, you definitely have to check them out. Like, there's some of the best like breakdowns I think I've ever seen on your channel, with just like overviews of the map, showing directions of play, just going through some really, and you always work with really like other really talented people when you do it, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we work with, so the breakdown stuff is Laz, it goes by Callus. He's actually a coach, like he coaches pro teams.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the mind of those videos is him basically.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Okay, so how did you get into, we talked about it a little bit before we started, how did you get into working with the Score again?
Yeah, the Score, that was great. So before that, after I graduated college and I studied like TV and film, it was harder to find work, as it always is.
Yeah.
So I ended up like, you know, bartending, serving tables to kind of keep living. And I kind of got sucked into that industry, like the service industry. Got to a point where I was like, well, you know, maybe this is it. Like, you know, maybe my life is shifting and I should just like move up the ladder in this industry.
Yeah.
So then I got like a job at a hotel, like the restaurant in the hotel. And then from there, I got promoted. They shifted me over to the hotel side of things, became like a front desk agent, became a supervisor, the whole thing. And I was working there and I just hated it. It's like any service job or retail job, like it sucks. Like don't let anybody tell you otherwise. They all suck. But yeah, I remember finding at that time I was doing like my Halo content online, like YouTube and stuff like that. And someone showed me this job application for the Score Esports, and I just kind of like applied for it. And then I really, really wanted it because I was trying to get out of the service industry, and this was like a perfect opportunity. And it was full time, salary, and benefits, and all that stuff. So I applied for that and mostly used like my Halo stuff as like my example. Like, you know, like, hey, this is what I could do. You know, like I don't have any other esports content. So, but I ended up kind of harassing the director. Like I emailed him a ton of times. I called him as much as I could. Turns out I was when I was harassing him, he was actually in like Europe for LCS, like doing a League of Legends thing.
Yeah.
And then he finally got back to me like when he got back and was like, hey, like come on in and do an edit test. Went in there, nailed it. It was very simple.
Yeah.
And I knew I got the job after I interviewed for it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It just went so well, you know, like I connected with him. I did the edit test like flawlessly.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I got there.
Yeah, that's such a cool story. Because
Mm.
so for people that don't know, the score is like it's gaming coverage. So doing like video features on news for the games. Is that right? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, yeah, they've shifted a bit since I left. But yeah, more or less, they definitely do a lot of like their own custom content. Like, you know, they'll dive into like not just esports anymore. Yeah, it's like gaming now.
Yeah.
And you know, they'll talk about like certain dramas that are going on, like a news show, like you said.
Yeah.
But yeah, before it was very much like about coverage. Like, you know, this is what's happening in these games. These are the scores of all these. Yada yada. But then they actually, while I was there, is when they kind of shifted, and that was scary. I remember I went in there, and like a bunch of people got let go, and I had asked to work from home that day. I remember that. So it was in the morning. I was like, "Hey man, like I can't remember my excuse, but I was like, can I work from home?" And he's like, "Yeah, no worries." And then a couple hours later, I get a message from like my buddy, like, "Hey, they're like firing a bunch of people," and I'm like, "Oh my god,
What's going on?" Yeah.
I'm gonna get my shit and I'm coming. Like I can't. Like I feel weird. Anyway, got there. They didn't let me go. They just they kind of downsized the whole company at that time. But then they ended up. Yeah, I guess they like did like this shift in like their strategy. And I remember at the time, like any change, you're kind of hesitant to it. And they wanted to do more like gaming content, more not so hardcore esports, you know, like they wanted to kind of be a little bit more casual, I guess.
Yeah.
Someone else could probably explain it better than me, but yeah, at that time it was definitely very hesitant, but it ended up working out really well for them.
Yeah.
I think like looking back on it, like that was a smart decision what they did, because they took off, and I still have friends that work there and they're doing really well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so, and how long were you part of that for?
Oh, that's a good question. 2 years, maybe 2.5, I think. I think so. Oh my god, that was a while ago though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I think the last time that I kind of had a look over the stuff that they're doing, I think 2016, I think is the first time I ever heard about them. I couldn't. They may not have even existed then. It's just I think I remember.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, and yeah, I think like now they're at like they're a few 100,000 followers on everything. Like it's a really great model what they do, and they put out some really hilarious content, and it's kind of it's a little bit different though from other you know of the same kind of businesses. And what they do. So, you know, it's really cool. And then, so did you go straight from working for the score and then move into working for like the LA Gladiators, or was it Blitz Esports? I think I remember.
Yeah, my next place was Blitz Esports. At that time, I think I was getting unhappy at the score, and I look back on it, and I don't know why. Like it was like I had a good gig there. I think I was just being a baby. But yeah, then I noticed that we started seeing Blitz content. Like they were kind of like a competitor. And I loved their content. I loved what they were doing with like their tactics videos. And that's how I learned how to do all these like, you know, Paradise Halo tactics stuff. But yeah, I saw them, really liked what they did. And then they ended up having a job posting that I just kind of threw my hat in the ring, and got an interview for it. Never heard back from them again. I got an interview for it. They asked me to do a test. Like they basically asked me to make a video for them to like, just to see if I could do it. I did that, never heard from them again. Maybe a year went by and I just got it. And I thought like at that point I wasn't applying anywhere. Just, you know, I let that idea go. And then I just got an email out of the blue from the owner of Blitz and like, talk to you again. Talked to him, had an interview with him, and then I got the job offer pretty quickly after that.
Yeah.
There was like a shift in my personal life at that time, so it made it very easy to do it. Like when I got that job offer, you know, they offered to move me out to LA, and I didn't even think about it, man. Like I just took it, and I took that opportunity because like especially at that time, I knew LA was like the esports hub.
Yeah,
and if I wanted to like, you know, get bigger in advance, I should probably follow that. I think nowadays, like esports is kind of global now. It's not so much just in LA, but yeah. So got the job at Blitz, and then I learned a lot there. Yeah, I miss that company. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, because they're somewhat smaller than, say, when you were part of the
Oh
school.
yeah, yeah. The score we had, oh gosh, like 10, 20, like maybe 30, maybe 20, something like that. People there. Because like it wasn't just the video team at the Score Esports. It was there was the video editors, and then there was like the writers, and there was the people that ran the app, and there's tons of people. But yeah, it was like 20 to 30, I think. And I went to Blitz, and it was like 5. It was like a small startup company, but that was interesting because it was so like at the Score, the Score is like a big company.
Yeah.
And like going to work there, you have like all your procedures, and you got to follow these rules, and schedules and all that shit, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But and then I went to Blitz, and it was just way more relaxed and like way more chill. It was just like making videos with my buddy again, like back in high school. You know what I mean? Like where we just like shoot the shit, make this cool video, and post it, and cool. Gonna go home.
That's it. That's the day's work.
That was the day's work. But like it was so much fun. I loved it. I met some of like my best friends there. Yeah. And but yeah, that was a shift in like my experience, and in my opinion, that's where I realized like, okay, like I think this is how it should be. At least in esports, like, or in video or creative, getting away from that like corporate, toe the line, follow the rules, like, no, fuck that.
I think it's really difficult. That's a really interesting point, because I think that's not even just relevant for esports. I think that's relevant for business in general these days, right? Like if you want a business to succeed, you need passionate people that enjoy being there, because it's really hard to pay someone to care about your business more than you do. It's really hard to do that. But if you can give somebody a position where they can enjoy to come in, do something, and be proud of the stuff that they're producing, whether it's, it could be like video editing for yourself, it could be, selling a product, something like that. And having that kind of balance is, I think, really important. And it's interesting to see with COVID as a good example, the amount of companies that I've noticed saying that they're going to encourage people to still be able to work from home if they want to, because they noticed that people had a better balance in their like work and their social life, because they'd sit at home, they'd get work done, and then it took out a whole bunch of travel time for a lot of people, but also just they had less distractions because there wasn't people always coming into an office or doing whatever, and people could just get it sat down and get it done. So I think COVID, and also with other companies, like you noticed in that shift between the two, hopefully there's a bigger push for that in more companies, don't you reckon?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think COVID was a good thing for in that side of in the like the business side, and I think it opened up a lot of people. Like the idea of like you can work, like working from home is. I think working from home is going to be, or like this whole new work lifestyle or whatever has shifted, and it's going to start going in that direction. Companies are now realizing like they could save all this money on office space and yada yada yada, and people are happier. And I for one loved it. Like I was very fortunate to be able to keep my job through the whole lockdown and all that. And oh man, like it's like you said, like I work way more, and like not in a bad way, and I think a lot of it is like when you're in an office, you have your distractions of people coming in. You're always kind of looking forward to lunch or like the end of the day. People are coming in, want to go get lunch, and I don't know. There's like that whole aspect to it. Yeah. Whereas here, like I'm never thinking about like 10 more minutes and I could go eat lunch. Like Yeah. I just go and do it. And then the whole commute part sucks. That's the worst part, man. Like
well, when you consider, right, that the average person spends anywhere between half an hour and like an hour and a half getting to and from work every day, right? Like that, the average person. And some people obviously longer than that. If you get that hour and a half of your life back a day, that is time for you to go to the gym, to hang out with some friends, to get a few more games of Halo in, to work on like, put an hour into a project that's, important in your personal life. That's already such a big change, right? But then when you can put it to the point that, like if I can wake up a little bit earlier and start working on something, because that's just how it works better for me, right? Like I'm a really good like wake up and get going kind of person, but I can't walk into an office and start work at 5:30. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, it just doesn't work like that. So yeah, I think that's a really cool balance. But now you're working for Sentinels, and this is where I want to kind of, if I can, dive really deep into it.
Because yeah, go for it.
Sentinels are like one of my favorite brands. Like, I love everything that they're doing, and I think that I think they're going to play a really important role in Halo in Infinite as well, because, you know, they did their send-off competition just recently, and the production quality around that, you know, the videos that you put out for that, so it was great, man. Like, it was really, that's what the community kind of needs more of. So when did you start working for Sentinels?
So Sentinels was, I guess technically it was right after Blitz. Right after Blitz, I worked for LA Gladiators, which was managed by Sentinels. So I guess technically I was working for Sentinels at that time, but you know, like the LA Gladiators hired Sentinels to basically run the LA Gladiators.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I did LA Gladiators for like a year, maybe a year and a half or so, and then the contract between LA Gladiators and Sentinels was over. And at that point, I think our boss just wanted to go, you know what, Sentinels is doing pretty well. Bugga had won the World Cup. We were gaining traction, and he's like, let's just go full swing into Sentinels, you know, and develop this org and this team. And from there on out, it was just like pure Sentinels work. At that time, it was so Fortnite focused. You know, everything was about Bugga because he was like our star. And then we got, what was after that? I think we got into Apex after that, and then Halo, and then Valorant.
Yeah.
I think that's the order. And we still have teams in all of them. So, but yeah, so I've been with Sentinels. When was that? That would have been, I think I'm coming up on 3 years. I'm pretty close to 3 years, because my visa is going to expire pretty soon. Yeah, and that's the 3-year mark. So I gotta get on. I'm on the same boat as you. I gotta get on that and renew it.
Yeah. We were talking about for everyone watching before we started. We're both on working holiday visas, except you're from Toronto originally, and you're in America, and I am from Australia in Canada. So we kind of we're both trying to figure out what's the best way to do it next. So anyone watching has any ideas and make it easier for us, because PR is a bitch to go through.
Yeah.
Even just the research of it, but I'm sure we'll both figure it out. So when you first started working for Sentinels and it was all kind of Fortnite focused, you're mainly just still producing video kind of content. What's the type of stuff that you're doing? Is it like montages? Is it like, you know, just random content that they kind of send you through and go, hey, make this more interesting? Like, what's the stuff you're doing?
Yeah, they're like, I'll skip past the LA Gladiators time and just kind of focus on Sentinels. But yeah, at that time we were kind of like in a situation where we didn't have LA Gladiators anymore. We didn't really have like much, like, because LA Gladiators, the Overwatch League, was like a weekly. You know, it was a league, so there was always stuff to work on. There was always a tournament on the weekend to like market. And then we got out of that, and like, you know, it was just kind of Fortnite and Apex, and it was very, you know, there's only like a tournament here and there. So like we didn't have a lot to work with. So we spent a lot of time like, okay, how can we need to make content to keep our jobs. We need to start thinking of ideas here where we don't need a tournament or players or anything.
Yeah.
So at that point, they wanted me to. They hired me just as like a video editor, like a motion graphics video editor. They liked the work I did at Blitz, and then that's how I kind of got in there.
Yeah.
So we ended up making content where we utilized what I learned at Blitz, and we made like Fortnite content that like taught players, like we called it Hot Drops. That was like our first big video series.
Yeah. And
it was basically like a 2-minute video on like where to land in Fortnite, and like what route to take, like some loot and stuff like that. You know, those like little Fortnite videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a lot of that for like a long time. It was like a weekly series, and but they also had me do like motion graphics for like, you know, match days and victory graphics. I worked pretty closely with the graphics designer at Sentinels, and him and I would like tag team. You know, he'd make a graphic and then I would animate it, and things like that. But and then Apex came along, and then I was kind of charged with making like an announcement for it, things like that. Like a cool little, like, what did I do there? I think I did like, if I remember right, I went into the game and like recorded my screen. And you know, in Apex, you have like those banners all over the map that shows you like the top killer, the kill leader and stuff like that. I like ran into the game and then I did it all digital and VFX, and I made it look like the screens were being glitched and like someone was hacking it.
Yeah.
And then it showed up like Sentinels is like coming to Apex and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like that was really cool. And God, man, like, yeah, it was just like a lot of that stuff. Just a lot of like hyping up tournaments, like making little hype pieces, like hype videos, and then we did our weekly stuff, like with the hot drops and the Fortnite stuff. And
so when you're making a video like that one you were just describing, how did you come up with that idea?
Which one? The hot drops
like the
one?
Apex one, for example. Yeah.
Oh, the Apex one. Oh, how did I come up with that one? I think I just thought of that idea. Like, I think I was just sitting there and I was trying to think of something.
Yeah.
And I was like, this could work. And it was easy to do. I tried to do it because I remember it being quick. We needed it done like quick. So I was like, okay, like what if I remember playing the game and I used to see like the posters in the game all the time. And I was like, wait, I could easily like superimpose like a different screen. And it was just an idea that came to me, to be honest. I didn't really have a process or anything.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. You must just be a fairly creative person, right? Like that.
I think so. You have your blocks. Like I'm in a block right now. I'll be straight up with you. Like so there's some weeks or months or days where you're just on fire. You know, like you just catch fire and you're in the zone, and you know, 20 hours go by and I'm still at my computer working on something because like I'm just like so focused. But then you go through like weeks or months or days of just nothing, man. Like it's just so hard. It's hard to find inspiration sometimes, and you get burnt out. Like that's the hard thing with esports. It's just so like go, and everything's changing, and there's news here and news there, and this player's doing this, and oh, we're in this game now, and oh, this tournament's coming up. Oh, now there's that tournament. Like this game, that game, like it's hard. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's the hard part is honestly coming up with the ideas. I think that's the hardest part, is like conceptualizing something. Like once I have an idea in my head, I at least know how to make it. You know, like if I want it to look like this, okay, well, I know this is the tools I need in After Effects to do it. You know.
Yeah.
So coming up with the ideas is definitely hard. And it could take a toll on you. It's something that a lot of people understand getting into the industry.
And so working from the perspective of like because you're working from home at the moment, yeah? So how does it work by working with Sentinels? Do you have like a supervisor or someone that's kind of sending you emails and saying, hey, we need this video kind of done, and then you go and try and come up with the process of like, I'm going to come up with an idea to make that look good? Or like, how does the workflow kind of happen from Sentinels to, you know, the work that you end up putting out?
Yeah, our workflow is like not that serious, I guess. I don't know. But like so my job right now, I've kind of advanced up, I guess, over the years. My job now is to basically come up with ideas and just execute and make sure they get done. So there's me, and then I have 2 editors that I work with. So I'm constantly trying to keep them busy with, you know, daily content, light stuff, things like that. And then I kind of, the stuff that I create is the bigger moments, or like, you know, if we got a big tournament coming up, I'll make like a cool hype video with like I'm getting into 3D now. So like I've been making videos with 3D animation, anything that needs, more production value, I guess, for like those, like, you know, one-offs, is what I will create. But then on the side, I also kind of keep the plates full of the other editors.
Yeah.
So we can kind of keep, I want our YouTube channel just to kind of always have content on it. Doesn't need to be every day, but like, you know, 2-3 times a week, like it needs to, you know, consistency.
Yeah.
But like, honestly, like the whole creative side, like we often like, and I love it, is whenever we have a moment to market, let's just say a tournament, you know, there's a Valorant tournament coming up this weekend or whatever, we all kind of group up, and our team is small. There's only like 7 or 8 of us. Our whole team will group up in like a voice chat, and we'll have what we call a narrative meeting. and we basically just throw ideas out there. Everybody talks about ideas. How can we market this weekend? Like, what's the narrative of this weekend coming up? How can we sell it? How can we, create a story around it? And then we'll all kind of throw ideas out, see what sticks. And then that's when you kind of start to be like, okay, well, how can we, we have this idea. We want to be the villains this weekend or something. We want to come swinging and we're the bad guys. Okay, well, what's a graphic we could do that sells that? Okay, well, then that's when the graphics team starts kind of collaborating, and then we'll think about, someone might have an idea for a video that I'll be like, that's a great idea. And then I'll just kind of go and make it. So it's the creative part is like coming up with ideas is very much collaborative on our team. We all come together and do that. In terms of like the video side, like it's kind of where I step into like, okay, if this is what we want to achieve and this is our narrative we want to sell, like how can I put that into a video and like on the time frame that we need it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that's where like, okay, well, I can do this part, like I'll make a 3D thing, and then maybe the other editor, I'll have him do another part of it, and then we can kind of click it all together like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Or whatever it may be. So the whole, so our team it's very much like, I almost want to say like startup-y, where it's very kind of like just get together, powwow, think of these ideas, and we just get it done. A lot of our ideas come like kind of last minute, and like those are like the best. Those are always the best ones in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
So we often come up with content like right before an event or something like that.
Yeah. And so outside of the like video editing and stuff for Sentinels, do they ever get you to do things that isn't to do with like creating content for like say YouTube channel or anything?
Oh yeah, all the time, man. Like it's wild. Like wow, the last one was the Halo tournament, the send off.
Yeah, that
was they came to me and they're like, hey, like we need you to put together a Halo tournament. I was like, what? I don't like. I'm like the Halo kid here, right? So like anything to do with Halo, it's Sean. Like so they like put that on my plate. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna put together this Halo tournament. So I kind of produced that whole thing.
Which was epic, by the way.
It was great. I loved it. And like it was shitty for me because I was in Iceland at that time for the Valorant Masters. So, and the time difference on that, and I'm like, Valorant Masters is like, Valorant is like Sentinel's like biggest thing right now. So like all of our energy is on Valorant, because that's where the numbers are. That's what's doing really well right now, and that's what's in the discussion. So at that time, like I'm so focused on Valorant, and I'm trying to like all day, every day, I'm working on Valorant. But then I'm like also doing Halo on the side. I'm trying to keep that going, but yeah, it was a lot of work, a lot of meetings. But eventually it got done. Yeah. Aside from that though, like, we'll have like merch, we'll have like a merch launch, and I'll help come up with ideas for that. And I'll usually be in charge of like the video for that. But like I said, like it's always collaborative. Like I'm never the person where it's like, I'm the video guy and you do what I say, It's, our creative director will come up with an idea. That's a fucking great idea. Let's do that. It's just like that. So I think they come to me, they look at me for like, oh, hey, this is a cool idea for a video. Can we get that done? Is that doable? Like, how can we do it? And then I'll figure that out. Like honestly, we get pulled around. Like we all wear different hats. That's esports. Like I've accepted it. Like there's no such thing as just like one job here. I don't think there ever will be. But yeah. That answers the question.
And working for Sentinels, have they got you? You just said before, like you were in Iceland. Do you get to travel much with work?
Well, not with COVID, obviously, but pre-COVID and like post-COVID, well, definitely. Like when we were doing stuff with the LA Gladiators, we were pretty fortunate that was happening in LA, so like that was all local. But I used to go to the games all the time and do video and stuff like that. A lot of our players live in Texas, so sometimes we'll fly out to Texas for like a week and just film. Just media, get a whole bunch of content that we could then just kind of put into a bucket, and then we could release it, over time. And then obviously Iceland came up, so that was like our first travel since like COVID. That was a lot of fun, stressful with the whole traveling and this country's banned, and but and there's so as soon as lands pick up, like I'm gonna be going to all of them. as much as I can. Anyway, I need to hire some help.
Well, if you ever need a hand at any Halo events, I'm definitely all yours.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah, I keep saying to everybody that honestly, that's like why I came to Canada, right? That's why I came to be more part of the scene. So yeah, if you ever need a hand with something, man, I'll volunteer my time.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah. So okay, what's been in the time that you've been with Sentinels? What's been like the piece of content that you've put together that you're like the most proud of? You're like, wow, this is like for me saying so. This is like some of the best stuff I've ever done.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the most proud was the Frosty announcement when Frosty left Call of Duty and came back to Halo and joined Sentinels. That was a cool one. That was a cool video because that was when I just started learning 3D animation. So I threw in some 3D stuff in there, like stuff that I was learning, and like it was Frosty. So I'm like stoked to make that.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember that one was pretty wild actually because they were in discussion with Frosty about leaving Call of Duty and coming back to Halo for like a while. And I remember always like checking in, like, hey, like how's that discussion going? Like, is that happening? So on and so forth. And I would talk to like our manager about it. I talked to the players about it. Anyway, and then it got closer to the day, and I just wanted to be prepared because I wanted to like. I love Frosty. I love Halo. I got to make something cool.
Yeah.
I can't half-ass this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm putting all my chips in on this. And the manager like messaged me, I think like 2 days before we announced, like, hey, we got Frosty, like get ready to announce Monday. And it was like Saturday. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, can you give me some more time?
Yeah.
So I ended up like cranking out this video in like 48 hours and I nearly killed myself doing it. But that was a really cool video, and it turned out super well. It was so hype. It blew up on Twitter, especially at that time. Like no one was talking about Halo, so like Halo was like in this lull. Like Infinite, I think, was announced at that time, but like the Halo sphere was low.
Yeah.
And like that tweet video popped off, thousands of likes and hundreds of thousands of views, and just like it did so well, and it was good to see because like I poured everything into that video.
Yeah.
And it caught a lot of attention. Aside from that, like I did another video for the Valorant Masters. That was mostly 3D animation, which I'm still new at. So like that was a whole feat. Mm-hmm. But yeah, going back, I think what I was most proud about was the Frosty one. And I think I've done better work since then.
Yeah.
But that one just like felt so good and like, just like a cool memory to it, and like I care about Frosty so much, and I care about Halo so much. So like I think what came out of it showed like my passion. So that's probably my one video that I would pick.
Yeah, excellent. Well, you're gonna have to send it to me. I'm gonna have to find it, and we'll put it over my.
Yeah, it's on the Sentinels YouTube page.
Yeah,
you can find it there. Just search Sentinels Frosty.
I'm sure I can find it. Yeah, because it'll be so awesome to show people what you're talking about when you do it. Because I remember watching it, and like I'm the same. I'm a big Frosty fan, and when I saw it, I was just like, oh, this is exactly what I want to see. I want to see, and then you know what? I want to see more and more of that happening as we come into. End of the year, you know.
I'm so excited to pump out Halo content.
Yeah. And so, okay, for yourself, what have you got anything like coming, like with work that you're doing with Sentinels that you're really excited for, or is it because it sounds like a lot of it's kind of last minute, like with the Frosty when you had 2 days notice, or is there stuff planned?
Don't have any like video details planned, but obviously, I'm super excited about the first Halo event and like the and the release of Infinite. So there's stuff there. But aside from that, from like what I know is coming, like I'm very excited for the next Valorant Masters, which is in Germany. Hopefully, I can go because we ran into a speed bump when I went to Iceland and flying back because of COVID, and I ended up having to quarantine in Canada for like 2 weeks. It was a nightmare. So I want to go to Berlin coming up, which is September, I think.
Yeah.
But I got to make sure that there's no like travel problems.
Yeah.
So that's coming up, and I'm very excited to do that because that's just another opportunity to do like in-person stuff.
Yeah.
Doing that in Iceland just felt really good after like 2 years of not doing it.
Yeah.
Just like, following the players around with the camera and just capturing like that the raw content of them at the event. Aside from that, we have like Valorant Champions coming up at the end of the year, which we've already qualified for, so we're going. It's rumored that it's happening in LA, which, yes, I don't have to travel. It'll be like on our home turf, so like we get to like own LA, which is super, super cool. So there's so much cool like opportunity with that, and like so many ideas like you could think of to like market this tournament. But then like kind of leaning on the Halo side of everything, like I am so eager for the first event. Didn't they say when it was? Like it was like the end of the year or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. That's all we kind of get. It said the end of the year. It'll have to be. Look, this is I don't have any inside knowledge, so I'm not gonna ruin anything by saying this. But the way I look at it is, you've got a game coming out, holidays, where everyone's thinking it's probably around November. I would say that you're looking at maybe early December, late November for maybe first LAN or first competition for Halo, but I don't know if they've actually announced it or not yet, like an actual date for it.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, I remember Tashi putting out a picture and saying he's locked in the venue, but I guess it's just waiting to figure out, with COVID and how it all works. But
yeah.
But
honestly, I don't even think they know yet because of COVID. I mean, yeah, I think they said they locked in the venue. I don't know which one it was, but
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's one of those things. Like even they're kind of probably wondering about it because of COVID. So we just gotta wait.
Yeah, but it'll be cool, and I'll meet you there. I owe a long list of people a beer or whatever you drink.
yeah, absolutely. It's tricky. I think if it's the end of the year, which I think they said, it does conflict with the Valorant Champions. So I'm hoping that they're not on the same weekend.
Yeah,
because that would suck if I have to like pick between the two. If I'm being honest, like which one do I go and work at?
Yeah. I couldn't imagine them doing that, right? Especially knowing when, like, a Valorant will be able to say this is like the dates, right? Because you don't want to compete with that. As a new game that's getting as much hype as Halo Infinite is, you don't want to compete with like something that's getting as much hype and as much attention as Valorant, really.
Right.
I would think so anyway.
I think Valorant is in early December. I'm pretty sure. I think they announced the date. It's like end of November, early December. I think.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure we're gonna find out really soon. We're gonna have flights, and then at the end of it, it's gonna be like, here's a release date, and then we're gonna go, here's an event, and then it's just gonna be like boom, and we're just gonna get like competitive season and a really nice mapping for it all. Anyway, I'm dreaming. Right now.
Well, aren't they already flighting it? I'm pretty sure they already said like they're in flights, like early flights. I think Joseph Staten said it in an interview. I saw it, and so obviously it's getting close. So we're next, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay, I want to talk to you a little bit about like your hopes for Infinite as well, because I'm just interested in that. But before we do that, as far as working in esports, because obviously you can tell from the conversation we've had, you're someone that's got bounty of experience, but also you're clearly a hardworking person that will put the time and effort into it, and the content that you put out is the type of stuff that hundreds of thousands of, if not millions of people watch and enjoy, love the shit out of it, right? If you were talking to a group of kids that were all thinking about wanting to get into esports, maybe someone that really enjoys like the video editing side of things, and you could give them advice on how to improve or stand out or anything like that, what kind of advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I guess on the video side of everything, what advice would I give? Probably, I do always say that, again, strictly speaking, content and videos, I feel like a lot of editors are like, people that want to learn editing and like make esports content, they just focus on like highlights or montages and things like that, which are cool and like they're awesome for like filler content. I like to call it that. Like, but like I think if you want to get into making videos in esports, you need to learn how to crafting and telling a narrative like through video is way more powerful than any super cool montage is going to be, in my opinion. Like a mediocre narrative video will have more of an impact than like some AAA CGI Halo montage, You need to create content that people are going to be able to connect with the players and relate to them. So, and I just don't like a cool montage is like super cool and like everybody will watch it and like, ooh, wow, you know, and they'll talk about it for a day, but it's not going to leave like this like lasting impact on them, you know, and keep them 10 years from now. I'll be like, oh yeah, Sentinels, they made that super cool Halo montage 10 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
Being able to like craft a narrative and like on video, it's not easy. Like I'm not going to say it's easy. It took me forever to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
I'm still learning how to do it. But yeah, like just kind of like leave comfort zones and like try to learn how to craft a narrative and tell the story of somebody.
Yeah. So I wanted to clarify what you meant by narrative, because this is something that like even, you know, I'm trying to work out like with our content. One of the reasons why these interviews are working so well is that it's creating a really big narrative for the esports scene, right? Like people are enjoying finding out more about people that they watch every day or they see content from every day. And it's starting to have that kind of evolving narrative to it. But when you're saying create a narrative around content, what do you mean? Like if you were to say for a Halo content creator that maybe isn't putting out great YouTube content right now, they're just doing like the weekly highlights and maybe some montage type stuff. Could you give it an example of what you mean by creating a narrative?
I guess like creating a narrative meaning like, I don't know how I would relate it to like a Halo content creator, but like at least from my side, like with Sentinels and stuff, like when I say create a narrative, I kind of go back to, like what I said earlier, like, okay, well, we have this tournament coming up. How are we going to market this and like make people excited about it and like invest in their time to make them like on a Saturday afternoon watch this tournament, you know?
Yeah.
So like we might create this narrative that like we're the bad guys and like we're coming back for revenge and, you know, the villains are rising up from the ocean, Godzilla style, and like we're going to come and win this tournament. Like that's like that, creating that narrative to then get people excited, invested into this, and like they're gonna want to watch the tournament. So, but like trying to like think from the Halo side of it, where I guess for like a Halo content creator, yeah, like I said, highlights and stuff. Like I want to know more about you, and like why should I don't know, like
yeah,
I think anybody can make highlights. Like anybody can make a highlight or a news video.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
but
like,
you know,
I've been so hungry to see, and it goes. I think it fits well with what you're saying. I've been so hungry to see for some of these guys that are like maybe, you know, amateur, semi-pro, kind of about to take that step into pro play. You know, hopefully in Infinite. I would love to see the narrative behind what that transition is like. So to have a story told, right? Whether it's you know, for example, showing little parts of a game from years ago, little parts of a game from current, and then kind of telling the story of progression. Because I don't think that a lot of people recognize. I'd love to watch, you know, even someone like Bound or some of the EU kids, right? In the Halo scene right now, that like lots of people have been talking about Legend and Sticker and like a bunch of the guys that are on what's it called, the controller. I've forgotten the name, but it'll come to me. You know, these guys are creating a really big push over there, and they're young kids, like 15, 16. I think it would be a really good form of content for them to create the narrative about what it's like being a 15, 16-year-old that's wanting to take a step into pro play, especially in where a lot of people that are at that level are older than them. So I don't know. I think it'd be cool to create a narrative around that story of like improvement, like becoming a pro player.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Especially I think now, like with kids and like the resources they have now, like we didn't have that growing up. Like, you know, meaning like you didn't have OBS and like tournaments online and things like you have so much stuff. Like kids nowadays, they can learn anything they want on YouTube. You know, you don't need to go to school anymore. But yeah, so like kids now that have all these tools, they should be showing like their story, like leading into, if they want to take this seriously, you know, as a pro player, then yeah, like show us like your journey, like what your struggles and like why should I care? I can go up on YouTube right now and search the best Halo clips ever, and like, you know, I'll get like a million videos.
Yeah.
but like I want to see like the person behind the clip, and I think that's what people are going to connect with the most.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, hey, I can narrow that idea down even more. Right, we've got an Australian player that we're really fond of. His name's Junior. He's a really talented player, right? And he's a little bit he's older than the like norm, like I guess that age bracket for pro player. He's a full-time physio. You know, he's got a wife. You know, and they're looking at buying a house. But in his head, he could not play video games again, and he's got a really good lifestyle ahead of him, right? You know, but he's got in his head that he wants to be a pro player. So that's something that I would love to see, and I keep saying to him, like, I would love you to tell the journey, the story about, you know, making a decision to sacrifice some of your time and the effort, and what that sacrifice looks like for you to be a pro player in Infinite. Especially from a country like Australia, where, you know, we don't have a huge scene. So what are the thoughts going through your head? What are some of the things that you're doing to kind of ensure that you're going to have a great opportunity coming into Infinite? Because I think that that's something that like the rest of the world would enjoy watching as well, especially as like evergreen content for if he does end up becoming one of the best Halo players in the world, looking back at it and being able to watch this story of like, you know, development and the risks that he took. So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to add that in because I think that, you know, there's a bunch of players that are all in that situation, and if a lot of like if 100 of them did it, and one of them ends up being the next Shotzi or Frosty or something, you know, that's going to be an amazing payoff for them to have that there in the background, right?
It's actually funny. Like one of my first videos I did at the score was the story of Pasha Biceps, the CS:GO pro, and his story was similar, where he was like, he was older. He was like working like a good construction job, you know, kind of deal. And then, but he really just wanted to keep gaming and become a pro, and he had a wife and they were having a kid and so on and so forth. And then he like, you know, made that that leap of faith and like went into it, and it worked out for him. I remember that video specifically. That was one of the best stories, one of the best videos I edited, but like I'm learning the story as I'm editing it. And I remember that was like one of the best stories, and I loved that video, and it made me respect Pasha Biceps like so much. I didn't know who he was before I made that video. So I remember that story. Yeah, because it's you know, every story in esports is the kid, and you know, played Fortnite, got really good, and lived in his parents' suburban house. You know, where he had everything in the world. But then you know, you have some stories like Pasha Biceps where he like didn't have anything, and like he like made that leap of faith, and like so there's not a lot of those stories, and I think if people are willing to share their story, if they're in that situation, then that's a great one to go with.
It's a cool narrative to hit, I reckon.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, no, that's good. I hope somebody watching this does it, right? And then we can see this video pop up, and you and I can just be like, hang on a sec. Like,
that looks what a prediction.
Yeah.
Exactly. Those are great stories, and they always do well, and it's like the what is it? It's the wild card.
The underdog?
The underdog. There it is. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, it's the underdog story. You know, everybody loves the underdog.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. So, okay, coming into Halo Infinite, what's some of the stuff that you're looking forward to the most?
Oh, man, events, man. Like, events are going to be great. They talked about in their blog yesterday that they're, like, doing a lot of stuff with teams and things like that. So I think that's awesome. I don't know what that means for Sentinels, if I'm being straight up, but hopefully it means good things. And like it just sounds like they're taking the teams more seriously and like allowing them more access to content and things like that. So I'm excited for that because that just gives me more opportunity to like tell stories and craft narratives and things like that. I think that was, and they admitted it in the blog post. Like that was one of the things that was like kind of shitty in the past, is I don't think they gave teams like as much access to the content or like to the players themselves at the events, you know. But I think they read in the blog that you know, people will be able to like get on stage with them and like film content and all kinds of stuff, and have the game footage so they can make whatever they want. So yeah, like mostly I'm excited for events, but just generally, man, like a new game. A new game that we're all starting on ground zero, except for the people that have been flighting it. They got the early access, but we're all starting like on from the beginning. We're all game. It's just exciting, man. Like to have this new experience, to be able to to be working on an org that is, has like one of the best Halo teams in the world that are going to be competing in it. And like, so I'll be able to like help shape Halo Infinite's esports story. You know what I mean? Like, as like being involved in this, and like whether it takes off to the moon or it doesn't, like to be able to be a part of it is just really, really exciting. And like, and the fact that it's a brand new game, we're all kind of getting in on it together, I think is just super exciting. That's the biggest thing. For sure.
Yeah, very exciting. I didn't realize how long we've been chatting. I try to keep these like around an hour. So
I work from home now, so you can talk to me all day. So.
Yeah. So I've got 3 more questions I'm going to try.
Take your time.
I think I could talk to you all day. So the first one I wanted to know, like outside of like the editing and the gaming and stuff, what do? You got a partner? Do you do any more study? Do you have like a hobby that you're working on? Do you do exercise and health and fitness stuff? Like, give me some more on you outside of that.
Yeah, just me. So I do a lot of video work, like outside of Paradise Halo and Sentinels. Like I freelance, and right now I'm trying to learn 3D animation, so like that's taking a lot of my spare time. But like aside from videos and all that stuff, I paint and collect Warhammer. Those like little
I know what you're talking about.
Figurines here. Oh, my phone's going off. Here, I guess I could show a little thing I've made. This is like one of my recent ones. Can I focus? I don't know.
Oh, there we go. Oh, that's very cool.
The lighting's not that great, but I paint and collect these guys, so that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I ride a bike like almost every day. I'm really big into cycling. The pandemic sucked, man. I feel like it took so much out of us, and we all got lazy. Well, at least I did. But yeah, like aside from that, I think it's mostly just video stuff, man. Like I pour so much of my time into just learning new video things and like I said, 3D animation now. But aside from that, just playing games, man, and painting Warhammer. That's my life.
Dude, I love it. I think that's
I'm an interesting 30-year-old man.
No, I love it. Well, you're the lead for one of the biggest, I guess, esports organizations out there. So
I guess so.
That's something really huge to be very proud of. When you do the cycling stuff, are you doing road bike stuff?
I ride a fixed gear bike. So when I lived in Toronto, like that was kind of like, my brother was a bike messenger, so he was riding fixed gear all the time, and so he was one who kind of like introduced me to like the fixed gear life. And like I got into that, and for some reason I just kind of fell in love with it, and like I've only ever ridden a fixed gear single speed bike ever since. And I moved to LA. In Toronto it made sense because everything is so condensed in the city, right? And then I moved to LA, and like riding a fixed gear bike through like the suburbs like sucks. I'll be honest. It's just like a lot of extra work. So, but I don't know. Like I'm thinking about buying a new bike, like a nice road bike, something I can commute with. I don't have a car. Never needed one up until now, living in LA. Everything is so spread out. So I still bike everywhere I need to go. Yeah.
And okay, so the kind of 2 last questions that I like to ask as well is, if you're thinking of 5 years from now, right? What's the dream reality for Sean look like? Like, do you have your, I don't know. Do you have your own house? Do you have your own business? Are you, what's the dream reality look like for you?
Yeah. Oh my God, man. Put me on that spot. I guess the dream reality, like own a house by that point. I think like once I turned 30, I was like starting to think about houses. Stuff like that. You hit that age. I should own a house. Why am I renting? I'm just throwing money away. Like, it's true. It's all the things that my dad taught me. Like, he was right. Aside from that, like work, man, like, man, I don't know. Like, am I going to still be in esports? I don't know. Like, maybe. I would like to see where Sentinels goes, and how big we can get, and how big, like, we could staff up, and like, because if it gets to a point where the team is just so big, then hopefully I could just kind of be like a leader of one of like the video department, basically what I'm doing now, but just on a bigger scale. But yeah, like, I don't know. I guess I want to see where esports goes. I'm so curious what's going to happen with all of us old people in esports, like If I'm being honest with you, like if I was to hire somebody, I feel like I would rather work with someone who's older than like some new,
Yeah.
like up and coming kid. You know what I mean? Like someone who's been through it, has like, who's a little bit jaded, you know, like I need someone who has like those scars, like, you know, the esports industry scars.
Yeah.
Cause man, like you learn a lot in this industry, and like what you should pour your heart and soul into and what you shouldn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I don't know. I think, yeah, it's like, hopefully 5 years from now, hopefully in a bigger role at Sentinels. I think it'd be cool one day working for a game developer on like their video side, or like the marketing side of like a game. Working for 343, like, it'd be cool working like on like their. I think now that I think about it, I think if I was to jump ship and like go work somewhere else or get a new job, I don't think I would want to stay in gaming, but I don't think I would go esports. If that makes sense. So like if I for whatever reason I had to leave Sentinels, I don't think I would stay within esports. I would rather go work for like a game developer, like on their marketing team, like Xbox marketing or something like that. You know what I mean? That would probably be like my dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aside from that, owning a house, keep freelancing. I want to keep freelancing because it's great side money, and yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, cool. No,
it's a simple life.
Yeah, those are some great goals. And the last kind of thing is, obviously, I always ask for you know, if you can think of someone that would be valuable to talk to, you know, keep continuing the conversation so everyone can find out a little bit more about them. You know, have you thought of someone that you'd like to tag in that I should get on the podcast and have a bit of a chat with them as well?
Who should you get on the podcast? Talk to, if you haven't already, talk to we're talking Halo, right? Like, you want to try to keep it.
It can be anyone. I've talked to people that are just in the esports industry in general as well. It doesn't have to be specifically Halo, and I'm open to going. That's one of the reasons why I like saying, you know, you should recommend someone, because I want it to, you know, keep evolving.
Yeah, I think if you can talk to like Muggsy, you know, who works at 343.
Yeah.
He's like a veteran, so and he's like made it, you know.
Yeah.
So he's like a really good person to talk to.
We've already tried to be an organized time, so you can't use him.
No, okay, yeah. So, yeah, I was wondering if I figured you were probably going to try to talk to him. Oh, gosh, man, that's a hard question. Like, there's a lot of people, but like,
is there anyone that you're curious to know more about that you don't know, like you'd like to know more about?
Yeah, like I would like, me personally, I would like to know more about someone who's like a big shot at like Xbox marketing video team, or you know, who's like the lead producer at I do know someone at 343, Jesse. I don't know if you know him, Jesse Stipek.
Okay. He's
like a producer at 343, or a senior producer. Anyway, I worked an event with Halo at DreamHack, one of the DreamHacks, and I worked alongside him and never met him before, or you know, in person or like online or anything.
Yeah.
But he was like super awesome, and I loved working with him, and like having drinks with him after the event was just super cool. He's such a humble dude, but like he does a lot of cool stuff like on the Halo marketing side, and like producing like a lot of the Halo content and all kinds of other stuff. He'd be really cool to talk to.
Sure.
That's like kind of Halo sided. Yeah, outside of Halo, God, man, there was the guy who the CEO of Blitz was like, he's super interesting, and like he's done a lot. Like he works at Discord now, and he's like huge. Like he's super successful. Done really well for himself. He'd be really cool to talk to, or like.
Well, that's great. If you send me their @s on Twitter, then I'll slide in the DMs and I'll say,
sure.
Hey, let's have a chat, because it'd be good to find out some more about them. But
he would be good to learn about like the business side of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about stuff like that, he'd be cool to talk to.
Yeah, I love that. I love any direction that we can go in the esports industry. But thank you so much, dude, for chatting with me today. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to talk about, or that we didn't kind of touch on you were hoping to kind of get out there?
No, you know, root for us on Sentinels, whether it's Valorant or Halo or whatever else. Check out the Paradise Halo content too. The people I work with.
Yeah.
Trespass, Mitch, and Carlos, they put so much passion and hard work into the content. So
Definitely,
go check that out and show them some love.
Yeah, definitely. And for everyone watching, thank you so much for watching this episode of the podcast. Like, I had a great time chatting with Sean, and I always get super motivated by like stories of people in the esports industry, because it's obviously, you guys are people that I want to work with eventually, on a more intimate level, and be able to keep putting out stuff that, one, is going to help the Halo community to grow, but also, is going to help our community to grow, and obviously, forward everybody's dreams. That's the joy, that we can all be super successful in this industry. There's plenty of room for it. And I just love that spreading that positive vibe. So thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me. Everyone watching, jump down in the description. There's going to be links there so you can catch all of the stuff that Sean works on. We'll put a few links to some of the stuff that he's done with Sentinels as well. And I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.
Peace.
Yeah.